So I made a decision really early in my career. I'm just going to be me. I'm just going to be a regular guy. I'm not going to try to act like a salesperson. And it turns out it worked.
Hello and welcome to episode 87 of the Smart Agents Podcast. My name is Michael Walter and I'll be your host. In today's episode, we are joined by 35-year real estate veteran Barry Karch. Based in Texas, Barry decided early in his career that the path to success was not going to come from being the in-your-face salesy type. As a self-described introvert, he focused on being himself and forming meaningful relationships with his clients. Today, Barry shares how his unique style is allowing him to outsell 90% of his competition. Now, before we get on to the day's featured interview, make sure to subscribe to the Smart Agents Podcast. You can find the show on all major podcasting platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and now Amazon Music. Also, if you or someone else on your team have an awesome story or tip to share with our community, send us a message at feedback@smartagents.com. We're always on the lookout for new stories to share. All right, let's get on to the day's featured interview. If you'd like to hear more from Barry, be sure to check out the Real Estate Unsalesperson. I've added a link in the episode description. So if you could, I always like to start out with having our guests introduce themselves a little bit to us, where you are in the country, and kind of your background in real estate.
Sure. Well, Michael, thank you, first of all, for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. I am a realtor with, I guess it's now 37 years experience. I don't know how that happened. I still feel like I'm a young guy. I was one of the youngest guys when I started, and I still feel young, but I guess when I look in the mirror, I don't have quite as much hair as I used to, but I'm 37 years experience. My business has been in El Paso, Texas. And I never expected to be in the real estate industry, to be honest with you, despite the length of my career, and I've done fairly well at it, but I always thought I was kind of an unlikely realtor. I went to college at UT Austin. Wasn't really sure what I wanted to do when I went to school. I'm always jealous of the people that know exactly what kind of career they want to go into when they're young. I wasn't fortunate enough to be one of those people. So I'm just taking classes, nothing's really grabbing me. I'm a pretty good student. I have to tell you, I got A's in everything. I could have done anything, but there was nothing I wanted to do. So when I finished school, my parents were in the real estate business and they were doing well. I had no idea what else I wanted to do. I didn't know if I really wanted to do real estate, but I figured that's as good as anything. So I decided to jump into the family business, and I went into real estate. And that's going to be back in 1985 now when I started. So I've seen quite a few changes since then.
Right. What really, kind of piqued my interest when, reaching out to you was there was one line one word that really stuck out to me in your kind of biography was that you're very introverted. And that can be, in sales, everybody sees like the big personalities, but we were just talking that that's not necessarily the success. You can be introverted and have great success in the sales industry.
That's true, Michael. When I first started out in the business, I went through some training like everybody did. And the sales trainers at the time, they had these scripts, these things you're supposed to say, this persona you're supposed to put on to be a realtor. So here's what you say when you're talking to a buyer. Here's what you say when you're talking to a seller. Say this to close the sale. And if they object, here's what you say to that. And if that doesn't work, then say this. So I had all these scripts, but they sounded so phony to me. They weren't my personality. They didn't suit me. I never said any of that stuff. It just didn't fit me. So I made a decision really early in my career. I'm just going to be me. I'm just going to be a regular guy. I'm not going to try to act like a salesperson. I'm just going to try to be friendly, helpful, help my clients achieve what they want, and not pushy. And it turns out it worked. People were very comfortable working with me. I think a lot of times people are worried about when they call a realtor, there's going to be someone that's very aggressive, pushy, trying to talk them into buying something. I wasn't that way. I'm a quieter person. And so it worked. And I found that all the success I had in real estate was because I'm an introvert, not despite it. It was the major plus for me. And it led to all my success.
Right. And you said you learned this at an early age. I mean, that's pretty impressive to understand that, I'm going to use this part of my personality and really kind of key in on that and use that as, not necessarily saying like, it's interesting, right? You're saying you not want to be that salesperson, but you're using your personality to kind of form this, sales personality of that friendly, person.
Yeah, it allowed me to bond with my clients pretty well because once they saw that I wasn't pushy, I wasn't trying to talk them into anything, I wasn't loud, aggressive, they started to lower their guard and felt comfortable working with me. And then we could collaborate well together. They would tell me what they wanted, and I would do my best to, if they were looking for a home, show them what they wanted. And they realized I wasn't trying to push them into anything. If it wasn't the right one, it wasn't the right one. And we would continue to look. And they just felt very comfortable. And I guess it allowed me to become more an advisor than a salesperson to them. They trusted me and they opened up to me, and it really worked quite well.
Right. So, when it comes to gaining new clients and gaining new leads in that role of the advisor, where are some of the avenues that you are, and were back when you started doing this, and even now today, but finding those new clients when you're not necessarily coming off as that big, salesperson, here's my billboard, call me if you want to sell your house, but going for the style that you were going for?
Okay. That has evolved a lot because, as you can imagine, when I started in 1985, it's like the Stone Age compared to now. Back when I began, this is going to blow a lot of people's minds who are listening. No one had a cell phone. Imagine that. No one had a computer. So that's where I started. So things really have evolved. But way back when I started out, I would do the typical things of the time as I was kind of trying to feel my way in the business. I would hold open houses. I was terrible at it because I'm not real good at meeting people and engaging them in a great conversation with strangers. So I would try that. When people would inquire about properties, we had what was called floor time back then in the real estate office. Since people didn't have cell phones, all the inquiries came into the office. And we would have a certain period of time where any calls that came in the office went to the agent on duty. So I would get calls there, and whatever clients I got, I would follow up. I was good at following up. I would follow up. I wasn't afraid to make phone calls and keep in touch and try to help them. So I would follow up with those type of prospects. And then early on, I was fortunate to get into a few different real estate networks that helped relocating employees. In El Paso at the time, we had a Chevron plant, and we had a lot of Chevron people relocating in and out of town. And I was able to get into that network. So I got some Chevron employees. So that's where it started then. Then probably 10 years into my career, I went to a real estate convention, and there was a guest speaker there who I'd never heard of at the time. His name was Brian Buffini. And if you're familiar with him, he talks about doing business by relationships, business by referral. And he talked about popping by, visiting past clients and delivering gifts to them. And after the convention, he gave again, this is a long time ago, he gave a CD that I popped into my car and I listened to him. He's talking about doing pop buys, like visiting the clients again. And I was thinking to myself, can I see myself doing this? Can I pull that off? And I said, yeah, I could do that. So that would fit with my personality. So I started all of a sudden visiting all my past clients. And after 10 years, I had a fair number of past clients. And I would just pop by there randomly, unannounced, and drop off a gift. My favorite gift I give people were Girl Scout cookies, because everybody loves Girl Scout cookies. Who doesn't like to get a free box of cookies? And from my point of view, they only cost a few bucks for a box. And there's nothing you can give somebody for just $3 or $4 that makes them so happy and appreciative that I can think of. So I would always go by, drop off some Girl Scout cookies and talk to them and just say, hey, just wanted to see how you're enjoying your house. And by the way, do you know anyone else looking to buy or sell a home? So I do that over and over again enough. And before you know it, they're preconditioned to send me referrals because they hear me asking if they know anybody else. And then I start to get all kinds of repeat business too from them. So my business has morphed to now where the vast majority of my business is repeat and referral from my past clients.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that just that style of being that, that advisor and wanting to kind of guide people through the process, I think that really leads into, if you stay in the real estate industry, it kind of leads into that referral and repeat business, because you've really created those great relationships with your clients.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to do business. It's the most fun with people who already know, like, and trust you, instead of having to win somebody over that doesn't know you from Joe Blow. That's a lot harder. So, and you don't have the competition either. They're not generally talking to other realtors if you've worked with them before and you've proven yourself. So that's good. But even for people who are listening, maybe they're new or only in the business a year or two, and maybe they don't have a lot of past clients out there yet. You can still do the same thing with your relationships, people you know, or people you do business with. Maybe your doctor, your vet, a restaurant, a barber or hair salon. You can still give them a gift and say, and just ask them, hey, do you know anyone else looking to buy or sell a home? If you do, let me know. It's not pushy. You're not asking them directly for business. Do you know anyone else looking to buy or sell? So you can just start with your own sphere of influence and grow from there. But I would recommend people do that. And it really has worked, and it changed my whole business.
Right. When it comes to, and obviously things have changed quite a bit since when you started, it went in 85. But when you got in, was there that kind of training? And you said it was about 10 years into your career when you heard Brian Buffini talking about this, pop by and this kind of relationship building. Have you seen that, be added to kind of the training that in onboarding that new agents are getting, or is that still something that, could use a little bit of work?
I think it could probably use a little bit of work. I think you still have a lot of the traditional methods of the cold calling, or perhaps even buying leads, or open houses and so forth. But it's probably talked about more now than it was when I started, but it could probably use a little more emphasis still, I think.
Yeah. What, for those new agents getting in that don't have, the sales experience, and they don't have, any family members that have been in real estate, what are some of those, tips for getting comfortable with the actual selling process? There's a lot of training on the contract writing and all that kind of stuff, but the actual selling process, what are some of those things?
Okay, well, I would just tell people to kind of change their mental approach to it. And I don't look at it as selling. I look at it as serving. So just change your attitude about it. People contact you if they're a buyer because they want a house. You're not trying to sell them anything. You're not trying to talk them into buying something they don't want. They want a house. And luckily, we have a really good product to sell. Almost everybody wants to own their own house. It's not like something that you have to talk them into. I've never been in, for example, life insurance business, but I imagine it's a little harder talking about selling life insurance. You got to talk about their death and helping people when they die. I think just from the outside, I think selling a house is probably a little bit easier sale. So I just look at it as serving, trying to match their needs with the property and just help them out. That's all I'm trying to do. So I'm not trying to sell them anything. And if it's a seller, they obviously want to sell their house. It's not, again, you're not talking somebody into selling that doesn't want to sell. You can't do that. You just have to convince them that you're the right realtor for them. So you have to be prepared. You have to be confident. That takes some practice and some time. And there have been plenty of appointments I've gone into that, I messed up on. I've lost more listings than a lot of people have gotten. That happens. But I go on enough appointments so you get better and better. So I always like to think, even if you lose, you kind of win a little bit because you got better. You learn what went wrong. What can I do better? I think about it, and you adjust your approach. You address just what you say. So again, it's just the service approach rather than the sale approach is the way I look at it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And that really kind of leads into, creating those clients for life, right? It all kind of revolves back to that, to have sustained success, it's having those repeat and referral customers. And by, presenting yourself as that advisor, that all leads back right into that.
Yeah, doing that, they come to trust you. And then really, I develop probably most of the time a better relationship or strong relationship after the closing than during the sale. Because at the beginning, they're so surprised to see me again because they think, oh, you forget about them as soon as you sell. And that reminds me, I read a survey early in my career that said for buyers, after 6 months of when they buy a house, not only can the majority of buyers not remember the name of their realtor, they can't remember what company they work for. So don't just assume they're ever going to call you back for a repeat or referral business. They're going to forget who you are. And you work too hard to make that connection and sell the home. So you've got to stay in front of them. So after the sale, they see me again and again and again, dropping off gifts. We develop a nice, friendly relationship. And I even had a client a year or two ago who called me one time because I hadn't gotten to his house yet with his Girl Scout cookies. And he was worried about me. He's like, I just want to make sure you're okay, that nothing's wrong with you. Because I hadn't got there. So it's kind of nice. People kind of get used to seeing you at their house all the time. And we develop good friendships.
Right. Well, I was just about to say that it makes, the job a lot easier and a lot more enjoyable when you are working with friends, and I think if you're able to spend your time, making those phone calls and popping by every once in a while to see old friends, I think it just kind of helps reinvigorate the day to day.
It does. And it makes it more fun and it makes it so much easier because like you mentioned earlier, you're not really selling. You're just helping friends. You're helping old acquaintances to find another home, sell their home. It's really doesn't feel like you're selling at all.
Right. When it comes to, we've touched on, the buying and selling clients. What about, the networking and kind of building a network of fellow agents or, maybe even some local vendors that can become referral partners for you? As an introvert, like you said, it's a little bit, you're not really into the open house. So not having the, the personality to really kind of stand out in that crowd. Mm-hmm. How do you handle that networking side of things?
I respect my fellow agents. I've always tried to treat them all with respect, give them time, talk to them, be friendly with them. You really have to be to do that, to be in the business for the long term, because you're going to see the same agents over and over and over again throughout your career. You're going to be trying to sell their listings. They're going to be writing offers in your listings. So you got to be on good terms with your fellow agent. So I've worked very hard on that, and it's really, really helped a lot too, especially in a market like we're in now, where you have multiple offers on so many houses. If they know you, they know you're a good agent, they know you have good buyers, and they trust you, they kind of put your offer to the top or give you little hints. If you could just do this, I want to work with you. If you could just do this, you'll get the house. So it works. So I'm able to connect with my fellow realtors. That's not been a problem at all. Really, to me, the introvert thing is, I think I'm pretty good one-on-one connecting with people. That's one of the strengths of introverts, really, rather than working a big crowd or a room or an open house. Perhaps a lot of people come in. It's just that I do enjoy some time alone, downtime to, I guess, relax, recharge, as they say. But it doesn't mean that I'm not good at talking to people one-on-one or don't like it. I have no problem talking to my fellow realtors. As a matter of fact, I enjoy it. And same with the vendors. I use the same vendors. I find vendors I like that do work. I use them over and over again, and we get referrals from them too. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% understand where you're coming from, where the one-on-one is much easier. I personally, I don't like large crowds. Mm-hmm. My wife can take me to, a party that even it could be a whole bunch of our mutual friends. But if there's more than like 5, it's very uncomfortable for me. I don't like it. I'd much prefer, I'll go out in the back patio and, just kind of hang out there, maybe find 1 or 2 people to talk to. So I completely understand that side of things.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same way. As a matter of fact, I often have said that if I was in a room with a bunch of people, you would never know I was a realtor, number one. And second of all, you probably wouldn't even know I was in the room.
Yeah, definitely. What, So with that, how do you stand out from the crowd though, especially in a market like there is today, where there's such a flood of agents? And I mean, there are so many agents in the space, and I'd imagine it's got to be the same way in your market too, that just in the last couple of years there's probably been even more come on, because they've seen, people just kind of see the crazy housing market and they want to get involved.
Oh, sure. There's a ton of agents now because the market's crazy and a lot of people think it's going to be pretty easy. So they want to jump
Right.
into this business. But how do I stand out? Fortunately, at this point in my career, I do have a large amount of past clients out there. So that's where most of my business does come from. So I'm not really fighting other agents, or I'm not competing against you for a client. I've got my own network of clients there that I'm working with. So I really don't have to stand out. It's not like those people that have worked with me before are most likely going to be interviewing multiple realtors. So I really am in a position, fortunately, I don't really have to stand out. I've already got my own client base.
Right. Where do you, you know, so kind of looking at the other side, where rather than trying to network with agents, to kind of get the referral business from people, or to kind of create those relationships so that they are comfortable working with you, what do you look for in an agent if they are newer to the industry, that is maybe asking questions or want to get some help from you? What are some of the things that you are really looking for to create relationships with some of the newer agents?
Well, first of all, someone that's going to do business ethically. I want someone who's going to do things right and not just do whatever it takes to close the sale, but do it right. So that's number one, most important thing. But other than that, as far as the agent themselves go, personality wise, it needs to be someone that looks at real estate like a business, not just a hobby, not part-time, someone that's really going to put forth the effort to it to generate their own business and willing to follow up. Follow up is key. That's what I found in my career, especially in the early going. That's where I think a lot of people fall down, is if someone is not ready to buy or sell right now, they forget about them. And I always think it's okay. If they want to buy or sell 6 months from now, or a year from now, or 2 years from now, that's fine. I'll still be here and I want the business then. So it's kind of a pipeline. So you just got to periodically follow up, keep in touch with them, and just see if there's anything you can do to help them at the time. But so to answer your question, it's someone who will be ethical, someone who treats it like a business, will try to better themselves and follow up.
Right. And I think a lot of, what you've talked about just in a short time is really, it's a lot of understanding that if you're getting into real estate, it's for a career, it's for the long term. You're creating these relationships for the long term, not just with your clients, but with the fellow agents and the vendors. So it all comes back to that. You just don't want to burn any bridges.
Exactly. That's the worst thing I see a lot of agents do, is they get upset at each other when something doesn't go right, and they yell at each other, or, they tell each other off, and you're going to see them again. So,
Right.
Most cities or markets aren't so big. You're going to see these people again, and you don't want to burn the bridges, like you said. So even if you don't think they're doing something right or don't like what they're doing, bite your tongue, be pleasant, and keep the relationship.
Right. So switching gears a little bit, could you tell me a little bit about the real estate unsalesperson and what you got there?
Yeah, sure. So looking back on my career, as I mentioned at the very beginning, I kind of came to the realization that my success came from being an introvert. That was my biggest advantage, rather than a disadvantage, as a lot of people might think. And I know there's a lot of people out there who are wondering, do I have what it takes to be successful in real estate? Do I have the right personality? There's a lot of introverts in real estate. Can I do this? I'm not real comfortable with sales. So I decided I was going to create a podcast to try to inspire people and encourage people that, yeah, you can do this. I mean, I've done this for 30 some odd years. I'm nothing special. I always say I have no special skills at this. I'm not anything great at sales, but I've managed to survive. If I can do this, then you can too. So I created the podcast, The Real Estate Unsalesperson. It's geared towards introverts, people who aren't especially great at sales or not sure if they can make it in real estate, just to try to give some encouragement to them.
Right. And I think, I was telling you earlier, my background, previous to doing this, I was a news photojournalist. So I met different people from all walks of life every single day. And the one thing I always walked away from every single day on that job was every single person had a story, and you just got to, be able to tell it. And I think it's awesome that what you're doing is showing people that no matter what your personality is or, your own personal beliefs, on your success, all you have to do is just kind of share a little bit about yourself. And there are hundreds and hundreds of people in your market that will relate to you.
Exactly. And then to add to that, kind of a hard lesson to learn, but you have to realize is you're going to have a lot of people that relate to you and want to work with you. And there's going to be, no matter who you are, no matter what your personality is like, you're not going to be the cup of tea for everybody. And so it doesn't matter what you're like. You're not going to be everybody's ideal realtor. And you have to kind of realize that. But your niche, the people that resonate with you, you're going to really enjoy working with them. So that's all you have to do.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to share a little bit with us today.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. It's been a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
I want to thank Barry for joining us today, and I really appreciate all the great advice he shared. Again, remember, you can find more from Barry at The Real Estate Unsalesperson, and I've dropped a link in the episode description. So once again, if you think you or someone else on your team has an awesome story or tip to share with our community, send us a message at feedback@smartagents.com. Well, that wraps things up for this episode, but remember, follow the show wherever you listen to podcasts, and make sure to subscribe to the Smart Agents YouTube channel. Again, I'm Michael Walter, and we'll see you on the next episode.